So as we open, as usual, we have a bunch of text box matching in these first 6 minutes. And the first 6 minutes will take us through the beginning, through the Hyrule Castle sequence.
What does that text say?
That first box of text is basically Zelda talking to Link telepathically about how she needs help. I believe that's what it is according to the vanilla game.
That sounds about right.
Both runners are off. They're making their way up to escape to get their sword and shield from Uncle. In the first 6 minutes, there's not a lot to talk about. The route's pretty straightforward. The biggest difference between runners is how they're going to execute their movement. In this part of the game, you'll see a lot of runners try to gain a few seconds, and even throughout the game, through a technique called pumping, where they'll use extra button pushes, essentially, like repeated button pushes, to get Link to move a couple extra frames. There's a command in chat. You can get more information on it. Basically, you can gain frames when you're moving left and up.
Yeah, one of those things that when I first started playing this game, I heard, okay, so it moves you 1 pixel every time you do it properly. How much worth is that actually? And, you know, it's not a huge worth, but over the course of the run, especially as far as the point where you get the boots, it adds up enough. It adds up to save enough time that I think a lot of runners do it because you might as well.
So both runners are heading down into the escape area. These guards, you generally kill with the spin and a slash. Try to get them to drop as close to the door as you can, so you don't have to waste any extra movement. Just to give you a little more background on these runners, Pikapals so far is 1-0 in the tournament. Beat Simple, I believe, over the weekend. And Willard is 1-1. He has a victory over Simple and a loss to Zatox in his group.
That's right. So assuming that the rest of the seeding, or the rest of the matches kind of play out according to the seeding, this is kind of the deciding match for who's going to move on. It could be Willard or Pikapals, depending on who wins here. Willard, of course, in a must-win situation, but with a win here, or a loss here, Pikapals has to beat Zatox to be considered to move on.
Neither runner will actually secure or lose their spot today, but whoever wins is going to have a major advantage. So Willard's taking a little extra damage. He might grab a safety heart here. Pika's in pretty good shape, though. Didn't elect to grab the one in that cell, but there's another one he can grab as he's coming up the stairs. The reason you don't want to go into the escape area with just 1 heart is because of the snakes and the rats and all that stuff down there. It's very RNG heavy. You can easily take a death if you're not closer to full health.
That's right, and you know, I think the snakes only do 1/4 heart of damage, so it sounds really, really safe to go through there. But it's a lot of snakes, and the rooms are dark, so you can't see what's coming from the side, and sometimes those collisions come out of nowhere and really hurt you. So we might see Willard grab a heart under this pot here, or keep running ahead. Now he is going to grab that heart after a bit of baiting to make sure that he's not going to take that fall during escape.
So this escape part in the sewers is a little bit RNG based because everything can spawn in just random areas. So if you get a nice RNG, you'll save a couple seconds. If you get bad RNG, you'll lose a few. Yeah, Willard got a little bit worse RNG there. He picks up another heart for safety as well.
That heart, very, very easy to grab, fortunately. And yeah, here we see some of that RNG. Willard having to dodge around through those snakes, where Pikapals had a cleaner run through. But of course, this is mere seconds in a run that's about 90 minutes long, so no telling what's going to happen so far.
Yeah, Willard's not getting the best RNG in this sequence right now. But yeah, as you mentioned, there's still plenty of race to go. Oh, the rat ran out into the upper left corner. That's worse for him. So Pikapals is going to come out at about 5:57. And Willard's going to be about 8-9 seconds behind.
Yeah, very good start time from Pikapals. Willard a bit behind the goal that every runner tends to set as a benchmark of 6 minutes, but still doing well in this race through the opening.
Both runners do grab the Sanctuary Hearts. It's easy safety to grab, and for Eastern, at least Eastern, though throughout the run, it's nice to have that extra bit of heart. Some top runners will skip it, but most will make sure to grab that.
That's right. It's a save of what, 5 seconds to skip that heart, but having one heart less, particularly in Helmasaur, which we'll point out when we get there, having one heart less can cause a death and end your run, which is always going to cost a lot more than 3 seconds.
So both runners are navigating these enemies. They're going to head into Eastern Palace here.
Yeah, and you'll see that they use the boomerang instead of the sword to stun a lot of these enemies or just move them out of the way. That's because the boomerang fires slightly faster than the sword and in some cases just stops the enemy from moving, so you don't have to worry about them at all.
So both runners are in Eastern now. They're going to head straight for the big key chest. There's not much else in Eastern to grab before that. So the first room we're going to see here is the Stalfos room. And what the runners are going to do is they're going to take a specific path so that they only get 2 Stalfos to spawn. The other Stalfos will spawn either under a pot or outside the room, and this makes it a little bit faster.
And Pikapals gets it. Looks like Willard's going to pull it off as well. Very quickly cleaning up that room and making sure that they don't have to go around chasing skeletons with swords.
Yeah, those skeletons can be very annoying to try to get because they like to jump around when you slash at them, and it's never fun to try to chase one of those down. Both runners also do grab 5 arrows in this one room. They're going to need at least 18 for the Armos Knights. Plus, they'll need additional arrows to kill other enemies as they're going.
That's right. One of the things I've really liked about getting to know this game is that you get a very good sense of which pots are going to hold bombs, which pots are going to hold arrows for you, and how many you have to have at each stage of the game, because they are a very powerful item and are quite often the best way to take out a boss.
So what we're watching these 2 runners do in this room is they're basically intentionally taking damage to get invulnerability frames so they can hit that switch and grab the big key chest without clearing out the enemies in the room. Oh, Pika's got to be a little careful, down to 1 heart.
Yeah, this room in the dark he's entering could cause him some issues if it doesn't go perfectly. but with a nice boomerang and narrowly avoiding that popo, he's through it.
Oh, Willard misses the bow shot. That's going to cost him a few seconds.
And now it's Willard's turn to be down at 1 heart, as he's going to advance through here. Fortunately, he knows there's that heart there.
Pika's getting through this very cleanly, and he's the first to Armos.
Sets up the quick kill, and there it goes. Nicely done by Pikapals for a very quick fight.
Willard's now in the Armos fight. Let's see how he does.
You'll notice, of course, that both runners put 2 arrows into that 1 Armos and then let it spin around the room. That way it's just 1 arrow away from being defeated, so that when it's the only Armos left, they can shoot it with a single arrow and take it out before it turns red and heals all its damage. That's what's really essential for getting that quick kill set up. So both runners done Eastern now. They're going to get those boots and start going really fast.
Yeah, I think Pikapals is about a 20-second lead at this point. So what we might see for Divergence is there's 100 rupees behind Saharsla here. Pikapals is going to go for it. We'll see what Willard elects to do. But you need to grab 110 before Pod. You can either grab those rupees here, or you can do tree pulls. The tree pulls are slightly faster, but you just have to make sure you have 110 rupees.
And looks like Willard's going to do that too.
So we watched Pika try to do a spin dash there, didn't get it executed. Basically, if you spin and dash at the exact same time, you set up yourself in a glitch state which allows you to move at boot speed without actually using the boots. Willard actually pulled it off there.
Yeah, Willard got it on his second try. The nice thing about spin speed is when you've failed to set it up, you can still swing your sword. When you set it up correctly, you can't swing your sword anymore. So we saw Willard slashing away on the stairs, figuring out, hang on, I didn't set this up properly, and he was able to take another stab and get it.
Usually you don't want to wait to take too long trying to set that up. Make 1 or 2 attempts, and if you don't get it, then just move on, because at that point you're going to start losing time.
And these two high-five each other as they go into and out of the library. Willard gaining a bit of time back from getting those spin speeds off, but Pikapals still in the lead as they make their way back through the overworld over to Desert.
Going to Desert's mostly just charging lanes, knowing where to charge, and what will help you avoid enemies. Ooh, little off on the dash there. You got the 2-bush bonk, essentially. Basically, if you try to hit 2 bushes at the same time with a bonk, the game doesn't like that and bounces you back.
Yeah, you can take out the bushes, but it doesn't keep you moving forward, which is what these runners are really trying to do.
So Pika's at the tablet. Oh, extra button push there, but has it open. So Desert's pretty straightforward. Not much to this. A lot of dashing. There's not too much in terms of tricks.
That's right. A little bit of movement to avoid the enemies, which are always spawning in predetermined positions. If you know where to put all your dashes, you can nicely avoid them.
So yeah, both runners have to grab the small key to head to the right side to grab the big key. You can make good work of those popos.
Oh, fantastic patterns from Pikapals. Able to dash all the way up and down that room. Let's see if Willard gets that same great RNG.
Not quite. Pika grabs some more arrows. You want to have as many arrows as you can get for this upcoming Landmola fight. So the upcoming Landmola fight is one of our RNG heavy bosses, in that while they start in a predetermined location, after that they jump randomly, and their jump length can also vary, and that can easily lengthen or shorten the fight.
Yeah, if they take a long hop that goes straight past where Link's standing, that's great because you can unload the arrows. If they take a short hop that goes the opposite direction from Link, it's basically a waste of a cycle for that particular worm, and those can add up very quickly.
Pikapals in the back. Pikapals executed a nice key dash there. If you line yourself up properly, you can dash, open the door, and go through it in the same motion. Fortunately,
Willard misses that. But Willard gets that second key dash off in there as we wait for this wall to move. Both runners neck and neck going into this Landmo fight.
So far, it's just been small little execution differences separating them.
Nice first phase for Pikapals as he takes out one of those worms in the second round.
Getting a little bit away from him now, but...
And over on Willard's side, the worms not going in ways he wants them to go at all, as they're just hopping past him. I've lost count on both runners.
And Willard's got it down first. He's going to take the lead.
Well, good work by both runners there.
I think Willard's patterns just came up a little better, and he's going to have a few second lead coming out of Desert.
Both runners having 7 and 8 arrows respectively, so they're able to keep using those in some of the later stages of the run. We're going to go a while without seeing the bow used, but they are going to collect a few arrows along the way.
So next up, in terms of tricks, will be the fake flippers that we're going to probably see both runners execute. It's a little trick where if you jump in the water and you screen transition on basically the same frame, or I think it's like a 1 frame difference, the game doesn't check to see if you have flippers and you can swim.
Yeah, and there's this fortunate little bush here that you can slash, move diagonally, and normally line yourself up perfectly. Unfortunately, Willard missed it there, but Pikapals has got it. He's through the warp and on his way up to Death Mountain. And that should show you just how close these runners are, that Willard missing that setup has swung the lead, however slight, back over to Pikapals.
I'm going to have to keep track of how many times the lead changes between these two. I think that's the second lead change so far.
That's my count.
So now we got another text box heavy area. We're taking the old man back to his cave in the mountain. There's 1 text box and 4 text boxes and 3 text boxes, and then there's a bunch before you get the mirror.
Yeah, it's tempting to just sit there mashing the buttons as fast as you can, but if you accidentally hit the sword slash button too much or the dash button too much, you end up stuck in place. So fortunately you can close the last text box in any sequence by pressing L or R, which doesn't have any other function in the game. And a lot of runners do that to avoid accidentally swinging their sword when they're just trying to move through the dungeon.
Pika's got to be careful here. He's down to 1 heart.
Yeah, both runners getting off that really nice spin speed.
Yeah. Going up Death Mountain, you just want to move fast. You don't want to take any more time than you need up here. So with Pika down to 1 heart, there's not a good chance to refill those hearts for a little bit, so he's going to have to be careful.
Nice play by Pika, stopping his dash short there just to make sure that he didn't bonk into the dead rock and take that damage.
And Moldrum headed straight for Pika, but the dash knocked him right out of the way. So Pika pulled the boomerang out. I wonder if we can see a boomerang dash here.
Doesn't look like it. Looks like both runners are going to do this the hard way, the slow way, or sorry, the same length way, but the way they have to pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah, there's several ways to set this room up. Some will use the switch to basically get invulnerability frames by standing on the blue squares when they come up. Some will use the sword, some will use the pots. It's a matter of preference. But Pika's got his key. He's going to take a Death Warp here. Now, since he was going to use the mirror anyway, it doesn't really do anything. But because of that, that's going to be our 3rd lead change as Willard takes the lead back.
Yeah, but Pikapals now back up to 4 hearts. Definitely a calculated death he took there, and certainly a better idea than trying to do the top of this tower with only 1 heart.
Both runners elect to skip the switch, so they don't have to worry about getting the safety hearts that are right before Moldorm. And Willard's going to set up a bomb jump. Pika will do the same. Both get it. That's the first of the bomb jumps we'll see in this run.
Yeah, they both bonk off the wall there just to widen the area that they're allowed to stand in, so that the bomb will manage to push them all the way over the gap. If you don't do that at bonk... Oh, Pikapal's taking the fall.
That's going to cost him some seconds.
You have, I think, a 2-pixel wide area, which is just not the margin you want to deal with in this dungeon.
Oh, and Willard falls on Moldorm. I think that's number 4. So Moldorm is 6 slashes. Doesn't matter for Moldorm if it spins or slashes. It's a bit of RNG.
Oh no, Willard.
No. He falls down the center hole. That's 2 falls. And Pika's going to widen his lead.
That's a frustrating place to take a fall, especially when you go straight down the middle. Willard's going to get right back in this. Fortunately, still has 3 hearts, so health isn't a huge concern just yet.
See if we can get it this time. Oh, he's playing with that edge.
I think that's 5 hits. Moldorm has entered the speedy phase, but Willard's got him. And notice how Pikapals used a pause menu there to make sure that he stopped dashing at the right spot. That's because if you don't dash, or if you don't stop dashing before you hit the end of the cave, you'll bonk off the wall, fall into a pit, go back to the start of the room, and nobody wants to do that. So we see the runners often, they're going to be pausing and switching items at a spot where the reactions have to be split second.
So coming out of Tower of Hera, Willard is about 47 seconds behind Pikapals. Pika's going to be the first to pull the Master Sword.
And Willard's going to be hot on his heels. Now, on your way to the Master Sword, no one picks up the mushroom. I'll be curious to see which of these runners, if it's either of them, picks up that mushroom to maybe use it for powder later, or even just for fake powder to take out one or two particular anti-fairies.
And we'll see. Pikapals will have a chance to pick it up right now. And does elect to pick it up. And now Pika is going to be on his way to Castle Tower to take on Agahnim. Be careful, try not to take extra damage here because a lot of runners like to have sword beams going into Castle Tower.
Yeah, it helps you execute a few rooms just a bit more optimally. Lets you do a bunch of cool strats that end up paying off substantially later in the run. We'll talk about that as we come to them.
Willard does like to grab powder as well. Pikapals is in the Aghahnim's tower. Willard is charging straight there now.
Pikapals using the slow but safe strat to just charge a spin attack and take both those guards out in the first room, and then do it in the second. Doesn't get an item drop from either of them, which is convenient for him.
Some runners in the castle tower here will elect to try to dash kill enemies, because when you dash kill an enemy, it doesn't drop an item. And that's going to be big coming up for later on in the run, because what they're trying to do is manipulate the prize pool so that they'll get a fairy in Turtle Rock.
Yeah, I know it sounds weird to say this, but those enemies who charge at you with their swords drawn drop the same selection of prizes that the Pokies in Turtle Rock do. Blame a dev from 1990 for that.
Willard elects to just spin him as well. Pikapals is making great time through this tower, already on the 5th floor.
Oh, unfortunately, that red guard sneaks in the way of the pot and then gets some hits off. Pikapal's going to get slowed down in this circle of pots room. But the optimal strat is to take out that guard in the center with 2 pots and then pick up his key with a boomerang. But that top guard can really mess with what you're trying to do.
Well, Pika chooses to keep using the boomerang to get through some of these rooms. These guards can easily push you into a pit that'll just cost you more time. But Pika has reached Agahnim, and this is another RNG heavy fight.
I'm hoping each of these runners gets 1 blue ball and nothing more.
See, this is where you can make some time back or lose time. Well, Willard gets a much better RNG in that room, so he's going to gain a few seconds on Pika. So here we go. Let's see how Pika's fight goes. The first shot of each of the phases is always a normal shot. And then also the first shot after a lightning bolt will be a normal shot, but everything else, it could be either a normal shot or blue balls. And so far, Pika's gotten 3 normal shots. Pika's got some good RNG for this fight.
That's right. If I understand right, each of those second, third, fourth shots is a coin flip, 50-50, if it's a blue ball or an energy ball. So Pika's won all his coin flips so far, and if he wins this one, no, doesn't quite get the 0 blue ball fight we all dream of.
Ooh, now here come the blue balls. But he avoids the second lightning phase. Willard just got one. Willard's already gotten 2.
Yeah, an annoying part of the run for a lot of runners because there is no mitigation you can do. This is all just coin flips, and does the run work out for you? Fortunately, over a 90-minute run, it's a smaller portion than you'd expect, but a couple of times it does make the difference, and certainly you start sweating when you get that 3rd blue ball Willard got.
Oh, I need up to 4 blue balls. This will put an extra lightning cycle in as well. He wants to see no more than 2 blue balls in this last part. Well, I actually got 3 in the first round, so he might be on his 5th blue ball.
So it looks like 5 total, which is just not what you want to have happening when you know your opponent is as close in skill as these two are. As we said before, I think less than 2 minutes separates the PBs of these runners, so they both know that this race could go either way. The small things are going to add up, and Pikapals has the lead right now, but minor things can make that change.
Yeah, one of those can definitely be here in Palace of Darkness because even through the rest of the run now, with Dark World, things do a lot more damage. There's a lot more higher level of difficulty, so there's still plenty of run to go.
So Palace of Darkness is an interesting dungeon with this NMG route because the runners just keep using the mirror. Turns out that there are way too many keys in Palace of Darkness for any sane person, and the runners have to just keep picking them up from essentially dead ends in the dungeon, then mirroring back to the start because that's faster than walking, and then taking another run at the dungeon to go a bit deeper.
Yeah, there's a total of 6 small keys you can get in chests, as Pika misses the first bomb there. There's a total of 6 small keys you can get, but you only need 4 of them, I believe. Or is it 3? No, it's 4. It's 4.
I believe it's 4. It's 5 if you can't pull off a tricky bomb jump, but knowing these runners, knowing the times that they have, they're definitely doing that bomb jump, saving about 90 seconds in the process, as well as ignoring a small key.
And we're actually about to see that bomb jump here as Pikapals comes into the back of Palace of Darkness. So this bomb jump that's coming up is a double vertical axis pixel perfect jump. You have to put a bomb in the proper place, then line yourself up in the proper place. And what you're seeing Pika do is basically use a pause buffer to get to that spot right.
And heck, while you're at it, why not throw a bomb over and open that wall before you even end up on that platform? So a very cleanly executed hammer jump from Pikapals. And now he gets to take one last run through this dungeon and go take on Helmasaur King.
So we'll likely see Pika pick up at least one extra heart coming up here. You'd like to go into Helmsar with full hearts if you can, because each of Helmsar's hits will do 2 hearts damage.
Yeah, this is where having that Sanctuary Heart, that 7th heart container, really pays off, because if you go in with full hearts, and that full hearts is only 6, that's only 3 hits you can take. And in a boss fight that can go sideways like Helmsar, you want that 7th heart, which lets you take 1 more hit.
So Willard's lining up his bomb jump.
It takes him a couple pause buffers more to get it, but he still pulls it off pretty quickly.
And Pika's in the basement with sword beams. You can avoid 2 extra menus and just beam that switch.
Oh, and that bottom right turtle in Pikapal's turtle room runs south when he doesn't want it to. That means it dodges a spin attack, gets flipped over again, and just causes mayhem all around, slowing him down as he tries to make it through that room. Turtle.
It also cost him a heart, which means 1 last hit he can take on Helmsar. So what you're seeing Pikapals do here is he's using his sword to keep the buffer, allows him to stay faced forward, and keep hammering the mask. The exchange is a little bit of lag, but it can be faster if you're used to it.
And 8 hits with that Master Sword takes down Helmsar King for Pikapals. Nicely done on his end as Willard waits for this wall to move. So both these runners on a pretty good pace here and not too far apart from each other.
Yeah, Pikapal's got a little bit of good RNG there, with Helmsar moving down, allowed him to just continue slashing a little bit more easily.
Oh, Willard also having a turtle escape from him. So he lets those 2 turtles come back together, knocks them over with 1 single hammer, and then is able to continue. As Pikapals just mashes buttons in that cutscene, waiting for it to end so he can continue with this game.
Well, Willard is in his Helmsar fight. Well, it also gets a little bit of nice RNG. Anytime Helmsar walks down, it's a little easier to get consecutive hits on him.
Yeah, you get knocked back just a little bit less. Oh, Willard going for the hammer hits on Helmsar. Those doing twice as much damage makes the fight go by that much quicker for him.
So Willard's got his crystal as Pikapals is going to dash over to the west side of Hyrule to pick up his flute before going into Thieves Town.
Yeah, if you're used to playing this game casually, at this point you'd probably go into Swamp Palace because it's marked as crystal number 2 on the map. Of course, that is not the optimal way to do this game. We've figured out that going ahead and doing Dungeon 4 next and then Dungeon 3 is much better. So we're going to see Pikapals go over this way and pick up his flute right now.
So he's going to grab the shovel, then he'll mirror to the light world and quick shovel to grab that flute. Let me give you an update on where the runners are. Willard is about a minute 15 behind Pikapals at this point, based on when they both came out of Palace of Darkness. Still plenty of race to go, but it looks like Pika is widening the gap a little bit.
Yeah, that gap started mainly around the Tower of Hera, when Willard took a nasty fall to Moldorm, but also had several more blue balls than Pikapals had to deal with. Willard having a hard time getting that item dash off, but now he's over the bridge.
So Pika's got his bird, or his duck, or whatever you want to call it. He might go pick up his powder right now.
Looks like he's going that way.
Powder is one of the more convenient safeties to pick up because it's a minimal time increase, and it allows you to gain a lot of health back easily.
Yeah, being able to powder all those anti-fairies that normally just hit you and drain your magic. Instead, you can turn them into fairies, heal. I think it's 7 hearts each time you do that. It's a huge buff to your safety, but it does take about 40 seconds to go and pick up.
Yeah, plus, of course, there's a little extra time each time you use the powder. So it's one of the more common safeties to pick up just because it is one of the safeties that takes the least amount of time to get.
And Willard's picking up that duck on his side as Pikapals is heading into the village, going to take out dungeon number 4 for his second crystal. And look at that! Oh no, Willard's not skipping the powder. He's just dashing left.
Yeah, I was wondering if he might elect to skip the powder just because he feels behind, but he decides to still go grab it.
Based on some of the things he was saying earlier today, he was seriously considering dropping the powder and just going for a fake powder glitch that lets you slowly mimic the effects of powder. I wouldn't have been surprised to see him skip it. Ooh, Pikapal's getting a nasty body by some of those, I believe they're called Zizaxes. But he's headed now to the back half of Thieves Town as Willard's on his way into the Dark World.
See, this next hallway, you can potentially get a good dash forward. Pika's not going to try for it, just going to try to dash normally. A little low on health, so you can go for the powder.
Yeah, that anti-fairy right there is why a lot of people pick up the magic powder, just to refill on hearts after that appropriately named Hellway.
So Pikapals is coming up here. He's got to bomb the floor, then go pick up the maiden. Will's working his way through the front of Thieves Town. And so far, there's not much in terms of tricks here. This is a pretty straightforward dungeon.
Yeah, this, along with many of the other dungeons in this game, has a lot of side paths and spots where you can really get tripped up if you don't know where you're going. But when you're speedrunning this game and you've played through this dungeon hundreds of times, as these players have, there's really no point in taking any of those side rooms. You just go on the critical path, and that's why it looks so funny to see them bombing the floor. As Willard gets that god pixel off, goes charging down the hellway.
It'll cut him back a couple seconds closer. Yeah, but as Phileon was saying, yeah, there are a lot of rooms in this game that really serve no purpose. Like the room in the upper left here. You would never go in that room on a speed run, but you might check it out in a normal run. The one dungeon that's notorious for extra rooms is Misery Mire. Like when you speed run that versus normal running that, it's a huge difference.
Is it ever? Oh, so Pikapals now all the way to the blind fight. going to be able to pull off this scripted fight that makes what looks like a completely chaotic boss actually pretty easy if you can keep the right motions, get 3 hits off per cycle.
Yep. Very scripted. Regardless of weapon, it's 9 hits, and there's plenty of weapons that can do it, but Pikapals gets it pretty much on script. So Pikapals has got more text box smashing to do as Willard has picked up the maiden. Gonna go grab his Titan's mitts and then go fight blind. Willard is a little bit lower on health. He's at 4 hearts, but like I said, the blind fight is pretty scripted, so he should be fine.
So I very quickly ducked over to see Pikapal's stream, and looking at his splits, he is about 1 minute and 45 seconds ahead of his PB time right here, including getting a number of gold splits. So these runners are both racing very well, very close to each other, but Pikapal's, compared to his prior times, is just killing this run.
Wow, and that is really crazy to see. Let's see if he can maintain the pace. But that's... I mean, I don't even know what to say for that. That's really amazing right now.
So we saw Pikapals duck into one hut. He's going to upgrade his sword here and then duck into another. Each of those huts having 300 rupees for a total of 600, which of course is required to go and pay 500 rupees to Zora. Get those flippers, without which you cannot complete the game.
So yeah, you can pay also an extra 10 rupees here to get a tempered sword. Pika's setting up for a quick warp right after he's done grabbing his tempered sword.
Yeah, quick warps are a method of changing between the light and the dark world when you're on the right X pixel that just saves about half a second each time you do it, as the game doesn't have to load quite as much animation. Pikapal's not going for the fence dash there.
That's not going to make people happy. They want the fence dash. Fence dash has become one of those things in these runs that people just want to see. It maybe saves a second. Some runners will try to pull it off, others won't.
If done right, it saves about a second. If done wrong, it does cause a nasty bonk that costs you probably even more time than that. So I can see why many would avoid it, but boy does it look good when you pull it off. So Willard's going to head in and out of this smith's house a couple times to get his sword upgraded as Pikapals runs through the worst room in the game, where you have to push this statue onto the block or the switch without getting hit. And the mummy's fortunately completely avoiding him here. He gets to go straight to the back half.
Unfortunately, he did get a slightly bad RNG pattern going into that back room, as the one mummy was standing right in front of the door. Be a little careful, because taking a little extra damage. Well, it does give us the fence dash, though, and then bonks into 2 bushes.
Thanks for the fence dash, Willard. As we saw Pikapals do another one of those bomb jumps that you set up by bonking, just to get that extra bit of leeway. Bonks back over the pit, and now he's going to be headed to the back part of Skull Woods.
So, he's got to be a little careful. Pika's got to be a little careful. He's down to 4 hearts. And this next fight can be really tricky. So, got to watch those hearts going into the back half. He should be fine, but We'll see how it plays out. While we're working through this room, he elected to freeze the mummies with the boomerang. You can only freeze them with the boomerang. You cannot freeze them with the hook shot if you were to have that at this point.
Oh no, Willard just missing the drop spot for that statue. Has to come back after killing the Wallmaster, but he's got the big key. He'll be able to head back and get the fire rod.
Pika electing to grab a fairy here for safety.
And we did see him take 2 hearts of damage. Normally that's not a great thing, but here it means Pika won't have sword beams, which makes this moth fight a bit easier, actually.
That is assuming you don't just knock him back into the spikes. But Pika actually got through that pretty cleanly. And he's going to grab his 3rd crystal here. Yeah, it just seems like Pika is just playing on a different level right now. He's just really clean.
Yeah, as we pointed out a couple times already, both these runners know how close this race is going to be. Willard definitely not out of this race just yet, as he's already in the back half of Skull Woods, but both runners knew they needed to bring their A game, and Pikapals has really been playing his best here, getting several gold splits so far in this race.
Yeah, and it's not that Willard's been playing bad. He's gotten some bad RNG. He did take one really unfortunate fall. Beyond that, he's been playing pretty well too. So what Pika is going to do at this point is he's going to head up to Catfish to grab his Quake Medallion, and they're going to head to Zora to grab his flippers.
That's right, Quake's not required until you need to enter the 7th and final non-Ganon dungeon of the game. But it makes sense to route it in at the same time as you're picking up those flippers, since they're both basically in the same part of the world. But it does lead to a bit of a lull in the run as you're just moving through the overworld instead of doing dungeon clearing.
So Willard has finished up Mothula. He's got more text box mashing. Pika's going to throw the rock and try to probably set up a quick warp here.
And that's the entire reason he's bonking off this wall, in fact, is so that he ends up standing on the right X pixel. And now that he's got Quake, when he mirrors, that's a quick warp.
So Willard's out, he's mirroring back to the light world. He's going to go take the same path that Pika's taking right now.
And Pika gonna buy those flippers. This is where those 500 rupees he picked up earlier come in handy.
Well, Willard's charging forward. He's going to head over, setting to the Catfish now. Pika has his flippers, is going to head out of Zora's domain, and there's a conveniently placed whirlpool out here that'll take him directly to Ice Palace.
Yeah, the challenge is going to be, can he get into that portal without getting hit by a Zora or a crab? Because if he can do that, he'll preserve his sword beams for entering Ice Palace. But it's a tricky thing to pull off. You see him even stop there for a second to try to hit a Zora with the sword beams. Doesn't quite work out, and he's going to be going in just a bit down. So
Ice Palace is a dungeon that can really separate runners. I've seen a lot of runs in this tournament die in Ice Palace.
That's right. There's 2 rooms in particular that can really crush your dreams.
So the one nice thing about Ice Palace, and we'll see this in just a minute here, is it is one of the faster dungeons in the run because we're going to skip about 2/3 to 3/4 of it.
That's right. You're supposed to hit a crystal switch, push a block down, circle around to the other side, hit a crystal switch, push a block, something long path, and instead we're just going to bypass one of those crystal switches and go straight to the end of the dungeon.
Yeah, I even remember hating this dungeon when I was a kid. I would intentionally go to Mire first when I was running this, just so I wouldn't have to do this long dungeon. I'd go grab the Ganon and use that to help me through it. Of course, in the speed runs, that's not optimal, so we'll do it a different way.
Oh, and Willard gets a nice Zora spawn, so he's able to get through that portal without getting a hit. As Pikapals enters the Ice Palace bomb jump, where he has to set himself up right on that edge, drop a bomb, and move down. After 2 falls, he gets the lineup, and he's able to continue through here.
And that's how we can skip about 2/3 of this dungeon right there.
You're not supposed to do that, but we do it.
So the other thing we gotta watch is magic management, because we need a full bar of magic going into the Cold Stair fight. Now there's a couple magic pots right before Cold Stair, so he's still good for now, but one missed fire rod shot and you have to restart.
And Pika's not wasting any time. Some runners, when they're down a few hearts, would opt to go back up through the door, powder the anti-fairy, and refill their health. But Pika knows how tight this race is. He's going straight to Cold Stair. Means he has a little less wiggle room. He's going to be a bit faster here.
And Pika gets through that shell nicely. Now knocks Cold Stair back in the corner. 6 slashes, and Cold Stair is down.
Oh, very clean Cold Stair fight. That is pretty close to the exact optimal fight you can do. Just getting them over and over in the corner. Meanwhile, Willard pulled off his bomb jump on the first try and is going to continue on through this dungeon and maybe gain up a bit of time. But both these runners on a very good pace here.
Yeah, Willard is about to drop into his Cold Stair fight. He's also going to skip the fairy, but he's at pretty good health as well, so doesn't need to grab it right now. You know, Pikapals is coming out. This is where routes can diverge a little bit because runners will elect to pick up the other 2 overworld items they need, the Ice Rod and the Ether Medallion, at different times.
And it looks like Pikapals is not going to grab either of those right now. He's going to head straight on through to Swamp Palace. Willard, in the Cold Stair fight, took a couple of hits and got down to 2 hearts, but he's finished there.
Yep, those puffs got a little bit away from him, but didn't really cost him any time. Yeah, Pika is going to head straight into Swamp, and all likelihood, well, he'll have to come out after this to go grab Ether, because you need that to get to Mire. He'll most likely go grab Ice Rod at the same time.
So you can see Pikapals had placed his mirror portal just a bit down and to the right there. That again was to set up one of those quick warps. It feels like it should be fastest if you warp right at the door so that you can step out and immediately go back to the Dark World, but turns out putting your portal a tiny bit farther away and getting that better X coordinate saves you some animation lag.
So this is where we're going to see paths diverge a little bit, as Willard is going to go pick up his Ice Rod, and I think he's also going to pick up Ether right now. I know of watching Willard, he likes to have sword beams going into Mire, which is why he elects to do this now.
Yeah, picking up Ice Rod, which Willard's doing here, is not usually too dangerous for your hearts, but in a second he's going to do Ether, and we're going to see just how hard it is to get through all that without losing a heart.
Yeah, Willard teleports up to the mountain. He'll use some spin dashes here, but with these rocks coming down, you can easily lose a heart. Like that right there. So it's going to look like Pikapals is taking an even bigger lead, but we have to remember that Pika is going to have to come back for those two items a little later. So we likely won't really know where they are in terms of each other again until they get into Mire. Or potentially even Turtle Rock. But Willard's got his Ether Medallion, and now he's going to flute back down the floor to go into Swamp Palace.
You'd think it's faster to go into Swamp Palace from spot 7 where it actually is, but that only works if you're already in the Dark World in that area. And because you have to be up here for the portal, turns out spot 4 is going to be faster.
The other time we might see routes diverge a little bit is if runners elect to go for the gold sword and silver arrows. If you're going to elect to do that, it's generally faster to do Swamp after Mire. But neither of these runners is going to want to grab those, so they are doing Swamp now.
Yeah, getting the gold silvers the gold sword and silver arrows can potentially save time if your silverless Ganon fight is a bit slower. But when you're at the level these runners are, you've perfected that fight, you need all the edges you can get, and that involves not taking the best sword and the bow upgrade.
So Pika's picking up his hook shot. He's going to head into the back of Swamp Palace now, as Willard's just starting in Swamp Palace.
And Pika did a nice little trick there. I expect Willard will do it too, where you open up the chest, you move down and to the right, and then you hookshot across the gap. And if you don't move up or down after that point, you can actually hookshot the pot with the key under it that you're lined up to grab. And, saves you a tiny bit of time instead of walking over there.
So next boss we got coming up, as Pika's going to get there in about a minute, is the Argus fight. The Argus fight is much easier with the Tempered Sword, because with Master Sword, each of the puffs you have to shoot and slash out take 2 hits with the Master Sword. But with the Tempered Sword, it only takes 1 hit apiece. And let's see if these runners can get a 0 cycle on him. If you're fast enough, you can get Argus down before he sends his puff out at all.
And I think that requires shooting out your hookshot as you're doing a dash animation, so your sword's pre-extended. Pikapals is not opting for that because it goes very wrong very quickly if you mess it up. But in the second half, all it takes is 2 tempered spins. He's going to be able to take out Argus nice and quickly.
So Pikapals has finished Swamp. He's got to do some more text box mashing, and then he's going to go for his Ice Rod and Ether.
And over on Willard's side, he's made his way to the left side of Swamp. He's pushed a bunch of blocks, moved a bunch of water levels, had a bit of trouble with that block there, which unfortunately throws the timing of the rest of the room out of sync for him. But in short order, he'll be headed back to the rear part of Swamp Palace. Now, it does look like that lead has widened for Pikapals, but as we said before, Willard's picked up Ether and Ice Rod, Pikapals hasn't, so Willard's going to seem to gain a bit of time back here.
Yeah, in terms of a run, when you pick up these items, it's all a matter of preference. There's really no time gained or lost by electing to pick them up at different times.
That's right, unlike basically the rest of the run, which is so well defined, there's a little bit of variance in that part. Willard opting for a strat where he hookshots the rail, clips through it a bit, I think, with his hookshot, and still brings him just to where he wants to be.
And Wood nicely stops his dash there to hookshot that enemy so he doesn't get electrocuted. Now, Pikapals has grabbed his Ether. Most likely going to grab his Ice Rod next.
Ooh, Willard getting hit by a water bubble there, stopping his dash across the waterfall room. Just a nasty little thing to shake your confidence. And, you know, puts his health in a situation where I wouldn't say he's in danger, but he does have to be a bit more careful in the Argus fight.
And Chad just pointed out that Pika is his PB pace. He's 2 minutes under it at this point.
Yeah, Pikapals is, well, as we can see on stream here, he's having a very good run, but especially compared to his previous times, he is just destroying the precedent he's set for himself already. And, you know, this is what he needed to bring to the game today. Willard gets the quick kill on the second half of Argus, getting a spin and a fire rod shot off at the same time. Closes that gap a bit, but Pikapal's still in the lead.
So Pika's in the mire. It's going to bonk over this pit. Now, since Pika lost a little bit of health, he doesn't have sword beams for this room. So it's going to take him a little longer.
Yeah, good use of the fire rod, though, to be able to shoot all the way back and hit that Popo from way across the room. So Misery Mire, as we mentioned earlier, is a massive dungeon with rooms all over the place, most of which are just red herrings. We're going to see these runners take a very warped and yet direct route through it, as they just cut back and forth, picking up keys and going to the Cane of Samaria as fast as they can.
So Willard won't be too far behind in the run as he's heading into the mire area now. The reason that Pikapals could use that fire rod at the opening is because he grabs a full magic fill there, so that he can get full magic for lighting these torches. So meanwhile, tracking their times, Willard is about 1.5 minutes behind from where both runners entered mire. Yeah, with sword beams, Willard's going to be able to blast.
Now, one Pope got away, but he does have a slightly faster mire too than Pikapals did, but now the rest of the dungeon fairly straightforward for these runners. We are going to see Pikapals make a bit of a gamble against a fireball here. Just kind of a coin flip as to whether or not you run into it and get slowed down.
Now, there's a lot of fireballs that can cause you a little health in here, but there's also a lot of anti-fairies to powder if you start to run low on health.
And that's definitely a consideration both of these runners made when they chose to grab the powder here.
Pikapals has his cane and he's going to head over to Vitreous.
So I think we'll see Willard do this as well. Pikapals walked over the spikes in that room. It takes 3 hearts of damage to do that, to get the key from the small chest. There is a different key that you can grab back in the big room, and it requires no hearts to be wasted. But it does basically involve a fair amount of backtracking. And again, as long as you can spare the hearts, you want to go for that one on the spikes.
At this point, it's a matter of just time management, saving as much time as you can.
Nice shot with that Cane of Samaria block from Pikapals to be able to place the block early and then have the beams get all the way to that switch that he needs to hit just to get into this room. He is just blasting his way through this dungeon.
Willard's grabbed his cane as Pikapals is heading upstairs and is about to enter his Vitreous fight. He's going to grab some powder to fill his hearts, and you need it because you take a lot of damage in this fight.
In fact, you take damage in this fight on purpose.
It's another spot where you use the damage boost to get through this fight a little faster.
Yeah, those eyeballs do, I believe it's 4 hearts of damage if they run into you. And the goop on the floor only does 1. So if you can make sure you're taking damage from the goop, you can really protect your hearts. And then it's just 8 arrows to take down the giant eye of Vitreous. Pikapals does that, and that now is 6 of his 7 dungeons finished.
Well, Willard's working through the basement here, and he's still trying to keep up with Pikapals. It looks like Pikapals is still on a PB pace. Lost about 20 seconds in there, but he's about 1:48 off of his PB right now. So he's definitely on PB watch as he goes into Turtle Rock.
That's right, but Turtle Rock is one of those dungeons where, unfortunately for the runners, anything can happen. Willard gets a massive spin hit off on those eyeballs in Vitreous, but he's only down to 3 hearts.
So Willard is good going through his text boxes. Pikapals gets up to the top of Death Mountain. Gonna pound some pegs, use the Quake Medallion, and go into Turtle Rock.
Yeah, and we see Pikapals use his hook shot on the stairs there. He does that on the same frame that he uses the boots, and it has the same effect as doing a sword spin with the boots. So that when he steps off there, he's in dash speed, and he's able to hit those pegs just a bit faster.
I'm looking at Willard's pace. He's about just under a minute over his PB pace, but he did have a gold split on Mire, so he did have a really good Mire there.
Yeah, so a bit of time made up, but obviously, as we can see right here, Pikapals still in the lead. Willard's going to have to pull out a few really clever strategies here to take that lead back.
Yeah, this is Turtle Rock is definitely a dungeon that can equalize things quick. A lot of things in here do 4 hearts of damage, and Pika's got to be very careful. He's down to 1 heart.
Oh, that's not a nice spot to be in. We saw him try to damage boost off of one of those rollers, and then use the iframes to walk through the other one. But the margin in that room is so tight that he just missed that window, and unfortunately takes a bunch of hits. He's going to have to be very careful here, or he might accidentally take a death.
There's some Oh, he gets his fairy.
So remember earlier, we talked about how he didn't get those drops in Aga Tower, and that would come to pay off later? It certainly did.
Yeah, that's why runners try to set up for that fairy right there. Not that he needed it too much, because he did get through the room without taking damage, and now he's got some opportunities to powder anti-fairies. Yeah, Willard is through the torch room. He's gonna use the hook shot to get some invuln frames. In this room, Pika is a little off track. Wait, what's Pika doing?
So, Pikapals, unfortunately, has swapped into rando mode, and he is stealing a key. Unfortunately, he's not going to get very far here. He's going to get blocked about a room from now when he hits that big door. This is a very unfortunate mistake to make, as runners sometimes do when they're trying to play in 2 different tournaments at the same time. Gets to that door, realizes I need that big key. He's going to have to do some backtracking here, and that's going to be a huge advantage for Willard to make up some time.
That's really unfortunate, because Pika was on a really good pace. He should still be on PB pace, but yeah, that cost him maybe as much as a minute.
Yeah, obviously it's unfortunate in any situation where that happens, but especially, as we've said, when he's on such a good pace against himself and with such a narrow lead in this tight race, it really hurts to see there.
Yeah, that allowed Willard to gain a lot of time back.
And Willard had a very clean pokey room there. Being able to spin that pokey against the wall, get the key drop, and go straight through that door without getting hit.
So yeah, that mistake has closed the gap to about 25 seconds.
But of course, anything still can happen. Pika having a bit of trouble in this roller room, but as is a theme in this dungeon, using some iframes from those blocks switching to be able to get through that roller without taking damage.
So yeah, this is turning into a really close race. Pikapals is working through the maze here. Willard is right behind him.
And Willard in the fortunate position of having sword beams for that crystal roller room. He is able to hit that switch a couple times without even using the cane and continue on. Pikapals needing a small key still. He's going to have to go down and do laser bridge.
Yeah, this Turtle Rock is throwing Pikapals off quite a bit.
Now he's got to be very careful here. His health is getting a bit low, but he does dodge that laser properly. And he's not going to take the safety door. He knows how close this race is and that he can't afford to lose any time, even just opening a door and exiting.
Ward gets the perfect skip as well, and he's on his way to Trinix. Trinix, once you've learned the pattern, is one of the easiest bosses in this game.
That's right. Pikapal's going to do this from the front.
Oh, switched rods early. He's going to need to get another shot off on that head. And forgot to switch back, so that's going to cost him a couple seconds too. As Willard goes for backdoor strats.
Ooh, Pikapal's getting hit by that head. He can do this last bit of the fight, but he can't get hit at this point. Oh, and a very clean second phase of Trinix for Pikapals, as Willard also takes it down very quickly. This is a tight race finishing up Turtle Rock.
5-second difference right now between these runners.
And 5 seconds as they head into Ganon's Tower. The most technically demanding part of this run, where you're constantly having to react to RNG from some of these enemy movements. This is going to be down to the wire.
This is just going to be a really amazing finish to watch. Everybody just buckle in. We have a wild ride coming up. Looks like it actually, because of the extra hearts that Pika needed to fill, it's down to 4 seconds, and Willie doesn't get his dash proper. That's going to cost him a couple seconds too.
And it sounds ridiculous to say, oh no, it's a couple seconds, oh no, it's a couple seconds. When these runners are, what, 5 seconds apart, that's 40% of your difference right there. It's going to be down to, you know, how they pull off each individual room, who prioritizes picking up which keys in the tower, because some of them are safer versus being a bit slower. Let's watch how they do this.
For what it's worth, Pika is also still on PB pace here.
That's right. He is, again, both runners have put on a fantastic show, both knowing that it would be this close of a race, and Pika on a great PB pace. I expect to see that from him no matter which way this comes out.
I mean, I'm just watching these runners right now. Every extra menu they take, every little missed pixel, every little missed move, it's just all adding up right now.
A very nice boomerang into hookshot tricks to hook across these pots, move faster. You know, the conventional strat for a lot of beginning players would be, oh, let me use Samaria to hit those things. And when you can pull off the movements with hookshots, with boomerangs, that just makes it that much faster. Both runners grabbing a key here as well.
To answer a quick question in chat, the runners are able to watch each other's stream, so they could know how close they are, but it's up to them whether they actually want to watch or not.
Yeah, some runners like to keep an idea of how close they are because it'll drive them to do better. Some don't want to see how close the race is because it interferes with their mental state, where they just want to go as fast as possible. Both runners executing the base move of GT very well, getting through it with 21 arrows, which is plenty for this fight. But Ice Armos, if it doesn't go perfectly, can really mess up and take longer than you want.
Wood elects to pick up a couple extra arrows up here. If he uses his arrows right, he won't pick up the arrows in the next chest.
Pikapals with a very clean fight. Willard, unfortunately, having that one Armos Knight get away from him. He's got plenty of arrows, but does slow him down slightly.
It's still about a 5-second difference between the two. And this is where execution just comes up big. Just every room here, maximizing what they do, is going to be important.
Pikapals unfortunately turns the wrong way in this mimic room, gets facing the wrong way and can't get his shots off, but he gets the 10 arrow drop, which could come in handy for this gauntlet. But these runners are neck and neck.
And Willard has the lead. Oh, this is just gonna... I mean, this lead's probably gonna change several times as we go. Oh, they walked those stairs at the exact same moment.
This is one of those rooms where RNG is the factor in how fast you get across this bridge. Willard gets a slightly worse pattern. Neither runner, though, can do the full dash. But now we're into the gauntlet where it's not just can you beat these enemies, it's can you react to the way they're moving. And sometimes it involves making pot shots with the bow and hoping those pay off. And other times it's just hoping that the enemies don't get on the conveyors. Willard gets a very good second or third room of gauntlet.
Willard's gauntlet has just been really on point right now. He's now picked up a lead of a room over Pikapals.
Oh, but that red enemy getting away from him narrows that lead slightly.
No, he's not going to grab powder here.
I thought he was there.
Oh, he misses the one cycle here.
Should be able to finish off this fight with a spin. There it goes. Pikapals, meanwhile, gets a slightly different pattern for this fight, having stopped to powder, but...
He also misses the one cycle, but gets it in the second, as Willard is into the Wizrobe rooms.
You know, we're here in another set of rooms these runners have done, I'm sure, hundreds of times, but any small mistake can throw off your entire rhythm for the room. Pikapals makes it through that second Wizrobe room as well. Willard got bodied a bit on the bridge when Pikapals is able to cross it without incident.
Willard has a little stutter there as he goes for the fire rod. Gotta be careful in this room to not despawn the tower. If you walk up that stairs as the other room is closing, you could. I think Willard paused for an extra second to make sure he didn't do that.
Yeah, and Pikapals uses his fire rod just a bit too early before he's picked up enough magic, and so we got a text box.
So I'm guessing a little powder here to fill up his life, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Now, Moldorm 2, can Willard get his revenge?
There's one hit off, he just needs to land this spin attack, and there it is. I'm going to say, yeah, that's some pretty sweet revenge.
Looks like Pika's going to have a little bit more trouble, but gets through it without falling. And now, through this room, and we're up to Aga 2, which is another RNG fight. Not as bad as Aga 1, but RNG could still affect these runs.
I hope these runners have completed the requisite correspondence courses in trigonometry, as that's basically the best way to get these balls to reflect onto Aga.
Willard gets a triple to start.
Oh, very nice pattern for him.
Only a single on that one.
6 hits total required. As Pika gets a double on the first round. I think that was another 1 for Willard, so 1 more hit.
Yep. That was another
Pika
double.
Pika gets a very good triple.
And they're both down. They both got pretty good luck on that Aga fights. It's just a matter of a couple seconds right now. It's going to come down to Ganon.
Fantastic fights from both of these runners. I can't believe the race they've shown us so far. Barely 90 minutes in, and they're entering this Ganon fight. Well done by them both. Pikapals now 2.5 minutes ahead of his PB.
Well, it misses that torch spin, or to try to get the one cycle on Ganon 2. Pika gets it. This could be a difference right here. Yeah, Pika gets into phase 2 a little earlier, but Willard has a great position to one cycle this.
Very nice setup.
Pika has a little bit of a lead, but the Ganon warps could throw this off.
You know, those warps are basically random how many times Ganon keeps warping. This is going to be hurting both runners mentally as they just try to keep track.
And it's going to come down to Silverless Ganon, who can pull off the better Silverless Ganon right here. Remember, what we're seeing on the screen is not necessarily official. We'll get the speed racing TV time once it's done. But this is really close going into the last phase.
Both runners get the torch glitch off, and now it's just spins, and trying to line up a 3-hit cycle if they can do so. Willard gets one set up here. I think Pikapals is in the middle of one too.
I've kind of lost count. I'm not even sure where they are in hits. I think Pika's ahead.
I'm trying to count both sides simultaneously, and it's not working out. All I see is Ganon getting spun and spun. This race is down to the wire. Willard getting a slight time advantage because he's able to use the fire rod to relight that torch rather than walk all the way over with the lamp. But at this moment, it's looking like Pikapals might have the edge.
We'll have to confirm the speed racing TV times as soon as they're done.
They both stand in the fanfare simultaneously. What a race.
And here we go. Pikapals is finished in first place with an official speed racing TV time of 1 hour, 32 minutes and 26 seconds. War finished in second place with a time of 1 hour, 32 minutes and 31 seconds.
5 seconds between these two racers. An incredible performance from both. GG to both of them. And thanks to them for putting on a good show. We're going to see if we can get them in here for a chat.
What might have decided that race was the first phase, when Pikapals got the one cycle and Willard missed it.
And we are joined by Pikapals, the winner of this race by 5 seconds. Congratulations.
Hey, thanks. What a run.
What a run indeed. And I hear this is a PB for you.
Yeah, you know, just a casual 2-minute, 30-second PB. Nothing big.
Nothing big at all. Congratulations on that. I have to ask you, first off, were you watching Willard, and did you know how close this was?
No, I just find it too distracting to try to watch a stream while running. So I had no idea until it ended.
Well, that's pretty understandable, and certainly helped you keep your cool. Any particular highlights of this run that you thought you did particularly well?
I mean, ice went pretty well, nicely. The bomb jump was bad, but, you know, sometimes that happens. I don't know, overall it was just pretty smooth, just like a few big things here and there.
And we're also joined by WillardJBradley. GG Willard.
Yo, GG.
Were you watching Pikapals during this to see how close it was?
I was watching the whole time, yeah.
So I think we have to ask Pika, what happened in Turtle Rock?
Oh, you know, I decided to load up a randomizer seed for a minute. Do the old key sanity play of skipping the big key. Turns out it didn't work.
Now, unfortunately, that key's required. That certainly caused us a bit of tension as we got worried and the gap narrowed as you guys were getting closer. Willard, any comments from you on this race? Things that you thought went well or a bit weird?
First of all, GG, Pika. That insane PB, my dude. It's good stuff. I had the restream. I had just Pikapals stream up the entire time in the bottom right corner, and I, after getting behind in Moldorm 1 and then getting, I think it was 5 blue balls, I was like, all right, it's time to play the catch-up game. And I actually saw, I looked at T-Rock, I was like, did he forget to get the big key? What's going on? Because, yeah, that closed it in. And then, of course, everything was pretty good, minus a couple mess-ups here, some bad execution, whatnot, and some bad enemy RNG. And then going into Ganon, I actually minimized the stream. I just wanted to focus really hard. And I slashed left instead of slashing up, and that made me miss the 1-1. And then Ganon kept on like going up in the top right while I was trying to get the 3 hits. I think he did that twice, so there were 2 times that I had to only get 2 hits there, and it kind of threw off my timing. And you know, losing by 5 seconds is that's fine. I could live with that, I guess.
Yeah, dang. Those 2 blue balls from Aga for me were really nice. I was half expecting it to be 3 just because I got the perfect first round, and then it was looking bad second round. But I pulled through.
Yeah, well, both of you individually, and especially when you're side by side like that, you gave us a heck of a show to watch. So, GG again. Good work to both of you, and thanks so much for that.
Of course. At the end of the day, that's here to entertain. No, I'm glad that you guys enjoyed that. I'm sad that I'm not going to move on to the brackets, but you know,
yeah, it's true.
I joined this tournament sitting at I like just barely squeezed out like a 134 or something to get into the second tier, the second tier of PBs or whatever, like the very last person on that list. And I'm still going to keep working for that sub 130. I guess the only thing I wish I had done differently is maybe consider, since I was so far behind, I should have dropped powder, because I didn't use it once, except at the top of G Tower, as is tradition. So I think I'm ready to drop that and get that free time save.
Yeah, I can say I'm sure not ready to drop that powder. I've probably used it in half of the dungeons, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I remember watching Zatox, you versus Zatox Willard, and being like, okay, I hope Willard wins this so that it can be me and Willard going through to the finals somehow. But well, unfortunately, it wasn't to be.
Yeah. That's 2 out of my 3 runs. I blew it at Ganon. That feels really bad. That's how you go out with style. But GG's. Thank you guys for the commentators, for everyone commentating, and for everyone watching. I'll see you guys for the rando tourney. I'll be watching, of course.
Well, thanks, Willard. And Pikapals, I believe you still have 1 more match to play in group stages.
Yep, I'm playing against Zatox on Saturday. It looks like we should both be moving through, but, you know, I think the time will affect seeding, so it's important to do a little better, I think. Not that I'm unhappy with this time, just, you know, it'd be nice to get an even better seeding.
Absolutely it would, but yeah, when you get a 2.5-minute PB in a tournament race, I think that's cause for celebration.
Yeah, now I kept myself a free like 30 seconds to save.
I suppose so. Well, I think that'll wrap it up on our end. Thanks again to both these runners. Thanks to the Speed Gaming Network for restreaming all of these tournament races with 128 people in the tournament. Getting as many of these matches aired as we do is no mean feat. JP, do you know what's coming up next on Speed Gaming?
I am actually pulling up the schedule right now. So I do know there was another race scheduled for right after this one, but it did end up getting postponed, so that race is not happening tonight.
So it looks like it might just be a lot of randomizer with some Rockman 2. I'm sorry, Rockman, not Rock Band. Rockman 2 on Speed Gaming 2 starting up in about 15 minutes. So for more Link to the Past, stick around on the Speed Gaming Network. I'm Philian. I've been joined by JP, who I'll give the final word to tonight.
Yeah, make sure to turn into some more Speed Gaming Network programs. We've got ALTTP randomizer. There is Rockman 2. In terms of the NMG tournament, we are done for tonight. Starts back up tomorrow at 2:30 Eastern with Bamboo Shadow versus Rezovaik. But yeah, otherwise, enjoy your nights. Thanks to Philian for commenting me. Thanks to our runners, and have a good night and enjoy some more NMG and Link to the Past.